Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the RSCast. We told you last week that we wouldn't be back, but we are back with a vengeance. We've managed to put together a team to bring you this week's action, and you can see the team in front of me first. He is always here, sat beside me. I'm very excited to bring him back. Kingsman Gas, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Back. We lied to you last week that we were going to be gone, but we've made it back. So we are ready to bring back week 9 or week 8 recap, and we're going to look ahead into week 9, the biggest week of the entire season, and see what these teams have produced in week 8 and what they need to produce to get the best out of week 9.
Absolutely, and you can see a debutante for the RS cast. Never appeared before, but we've brought him in. It makes sense to have someone living up north replaced by someone else living up north. Hodge, welcome, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Pleasure to be here. Obviously, some big shoes to fill with the absence of Sir Pegasus today. Yeah, we're gonna have some fun, and we're gonna talk some RSC hopefully.
We certainly are. That is exactly what we're here for. So, with that said, we are going to get on to our weekly recap. We're going to be starting to discuss each of our tiers here in RSC. And as always, it begins with the prospect tier. So, let's take a look at week 8 results from the prospect tier. And as always, it's going to be Kingsman Gas taking us through Glacies.
Well, two teams in the Prospect Glacies tier absolutely decided their play in charge had to start now in Obscurity and Terror. I don't know if you guys can see. I think you might be seeing Challenger at the moment, but I can tell you Prospect, Obscurity, and Terror. There we go. Obscurity and Terror, the two sides to go 2-0 in the mid-pack, both picking up impressive wins. Terror taking Team Serene to Game 5 and sweeping high-flying Montbéliard, whereas Obscurity swept Rosaceous, who are having a rough season, and also swept Newt's other mid-table opposition. So those two teams really making a stand here in the final week, a real push in towards those playoff spaces. However, one side that doesn't seem to want to get the top is Roz. They went double loss this week, losing to Newts in the midfield and also losing to the one of the teams struggling at the bottom in Maelstrom. This is what is brilliant. Maelstrom, a team that is with pretty much low chances of top 6, but still getting those big results against those big teams, making their final week even more worrying than it should be.
Yeah, for sure. And we will see how that forms the standings in a moment. But Hodge, he is stepping into the Sir Pegasus shoes, which means he gets Ignis Conference for today. Hodge, what were the results like for Ignis last week?
Well, the Ignis Conference was chaos, and it's continuing that way throughout. I mean, when you look down at some of these standings, we're seeing some big wins that are doing some big things for some of the teams from week 8. I mean, when you look towards Dexterity, them sweeping both of their matches and putting themselves in a good spot to try and contend in week 9 to make those playoffs. But with the sort of format of the Ignis Conference right now and how it's shaping up across these 8 weeks, we are at a point in the Ignis Conference in Prospect where pretty much most of the teams there have a chance to still make play-ins, have a chance to still make playoffs. So it is going to come down to those final 2 games in week 9 to see who goes there. But so some great results across the Ignis Conference in general. And we're at a point in the season where all of these results matter so much in terms of different teams' standings and chances for playoffs.
You are absolutely right, Hodge, which means that we do need to take a look at those standings as we go into the final week of RSC and kicking things off with Glacies Kingsman.
Magis never looked like stopping. 12-4, they top the table and are in that leading seat for that first place spot. 12-4, unbeaten in the last 5 and don't look like stopping. Behind them is Montbéliard, who dropped a silly series this week. Won't be wanting to do that because that has put them one behind the leaders. Then Roz, double loss. Top 3 not secured yet. However, pretty much secure. However, they need to be looking up the table at what they can produce. Obscurity and Terror both went double win this week. Terror ending an awful run of form as they go 8-8, looking to fight for that best lower bracket seed. Then Newts are just holding off Team Serene in that 6th place spot. Both 7 and 9, both needing big weeks. 2 teams still left in it is Maelstrom and Rosacea, only 1 series behind. Still in with a big chance here. Rosacea's 0-2 week is not going to be looking friendly, but Maelstrom, with that big series win, allows them to sneak their way in. Accelerate are technically still in the fight, but it's week 9. There's only 2 series left. I'm pretty much counting them out.
Pretty much counting them out. Well, it's time then to switch over and take a look at the Ignis conference as well. And of course, Hodge, this one lands at your doorstep. As far as I can tell, only one team properly out of playoffs, which we'll try again, which sets up a fantastic final week.
It does. Only Spark are completely out of the running, and then when you sort of turn to look at the teams guaranteed in playoffs, absolutely none of them. And the only team guaranteed in play-ins is going to be that Alpha Surge Koryu team. So everyone else, every other team is going to be fighting for something in week 9. It's going to be complete chaos. It's going to be absolutely brilliant. Can't wait to see what happens. But yeah, some of those high flyers at the top of the table, obviously Koryu, 20R, Embark, Rising Star Wildcards. I mean, everyone's so close, you can't really even talk about sort of standout performances because everyone is just so closely matched. And we have a lot of those games scheduled right on the final day of the week on Sunday. So there's going to be a Sunday showdown on the last day of league play to decide those playoff spots.
There certainly are. It's very exciting in the prospect tier. So how will teams get into those play-ins and playoffs? Well, they've got to fight through their fixtures in week 9. Let's take a look at those fixtures now. The list of what is coming up this week. And of course, Kingsman Gas, Glacies is looking very tasty in this final week.
Oh, it is. There are lots of results up and down the table that I want to look out for. A team I've picked out in particular is Newts, obviously guarding that 6th place spot at the minute. And they have a week where they play Team Serene and Deathcloud, the 2 teams who are behind them, searching for their lifeline in this RSC season. Both needing results to go above Newts. Newts are going to want to hang on for dear life here. And to look up the table, Obscurity, I mentioned, on a good run of form. They have to play Umagis at the top. One of their runs is going to come to a stop. Obscurity, though, with 3 out of 4 wins in the last few weeks, are going to want to push on and give Roz a run for their money, who don't exactly have the easiest week as they play Terra and Accelerate. Accelerate might be a nice game. However, Accelerate will want to win both series and give themselves the best chance, even sneaking into the top 6. As much as I don't think it would happen, it would be a miracle, and I've seen bigger shocks.
And it's always the way in Prospect. Any team can be any other team on any given day. So very interesting to see about that one. Ignis, though, over with Hodge. And no games today, but the rest of the week looks absolutely stacked for Prospect Ignis.
It really does. Games across the entire week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Saturday's a little bit of an off day for them, and then we get that final Sunday marathon. 5 of the Ignis games taking place on Sunday, and it's going to be a really, really big day for all of those teams in that conference, where we get to finally seal the deal, send 6 of those teams through to the playoffs and the play-ins, and they're all some pretty crucial series for these teams.
And the crucial series always keep coming. So those are your fixtures for week 9, the final fixtures of the regular season in Prospect. And that does cover off the Prospect tier. So let's take a look at the next tier up. We move to the Challenger tier. And in order to go through all of the standings and all the fixtures, we of course first have to go through the results. So last week in Glacies Kingsman Gas, what a week it was for Charlie.
It was a team with 1 series win the whole season, picked up another one. And Coley were 2C, going 2-14 now as they get a 3-1 win over Axolotls. I mean, as much as Encoli were 2C were far out of it, they've just basically said to Axolotls, your season is over and your reputation is gone as well. Brilliant for them. One team I do have to pick up, though, is on Keanu. 5 series wins out of the last 5. They are really the informed team, and they don't look like stopping. A Game 5 series win over Pardus, and a Game 4 series win over Monsoon does them brilliant work, and what a recovery it's been for them this season. They're going to look to keep pushing on. However, top of the table in Week 7 was Eclipse. They don't find themselves with a series win, swept by Team Serene Challenger Yukobo 3-0. And Pardus being on the right side of a Game 5, they lose the series at 3-2. So there's a lot of big winners and losers. I think the losers, Axolotls, as Keanu look to push on.
Yeah, absolutely. And meanwhile, over on the Ignis side, I'm not seeing any 5-game series, but a couple of sweeps and 4-game series. Hodge, what kind of games did we see in week 8?
Oh, we saw some absolute great games for some of our teams, most notably Alpha Surge Veldora and Brave Ember, winning both of their matches this week to sort of push them up into those 5 and 6 spots on the leaderboard. And, well, that is also that Dexterity roster falling down with a couple of their losses. Meanwhile, you look towards the top of the table, Illusory Mischief still flawless, still 16-0, and looking like no signs of slowing down. So, some big games from the high flyers at the top. Mischief, Clean actually losing both of their matches, which is the first time they've lost 2 matches in a while. Before that, only losing 2 matches across the entire season. And then Aspire also looking pretty good at the top as well, in 3rd place. So some varied results, and those results meaning different things for different teams.
And let's find out exactly what those different results mean for each of our teams as we go to the standings. And of course, we start with the colder of the 2 conferences. It's Glacies for Challenger. And, well, this looks a bit different than last week, Kingsman. I think that's fair to say.
Oh, yes, it does. Eclipse, they're not even in the top 3 anymore, as Yukobo, Neptunium, and Thralls all thrive from their double win weeks, as they push 12-4, 11-5, and 10-6. Top 3 is not secured for any of these teams yet. However, Eclipse's big fumble this week makes Yukobo's charge at the top a bit easier, with Neptunium's needing big results. Looking down the table, obviously Thralls and Eclipse tied 10-6. However, those high flyers of Keanu that I mentioned, 9-7, don't be surprised if you see them fly up into that top 3. Inertia, they ended their poor run of form as well this week with a win. That red form, completely opposite to Keanu, but I don't see them challenging 3rd, but they're only 1 series off. However, the last team that are left in contention, Monsoon, 1 series behind, they haven't been finding wins either, and they need to if they're going to steal that 6th spot from Inertia on 8-8. Then you've got the 3 teams that are out of contention. Pardus 5-11. They picked up a big series win this week against Eclipse. Not big for them, but big in that top 3 fight. Axolotls picking up that embarrassing loss to pretty much cap off the season. And Ankoli were 2C, giving it their everything, even though they were more than out of it.
Embarrassing is a little bit crazy, Kingsman. They tried their best, but at the end of the day, a loss to bottom of the table is never something that you do want on your record. Let's see if anyone's got a loss on their record that they don't want over on the Ignis side of things, Hodge. And this one looks a little bit more stable. Still a couple of changes week to week.
Yeah, still a couple of changes here and there, but for the most part, like you say, a little bit more stable than the Glacies Conference. Obviously, Mischief Clean still flying high at the top of the table. Aspire Rise, though, have moved up one of those places with their double win week, and at the same time, that's also off of the back of 20R's double loss week. So a couple of changes there. When you also look down the table a little bit, we've seen Ember move up a couple of places in place of Dexterity alongside Alpha Surge, who also moved up, and that's sort of shaken up that playoffs cut-off point a little bit, and then also down towards the bottom of the table. Not that it matters much, but Ascending Star moving up from 10th place to 9th place with one of their wins in that week.
Yeah, for sure. So with that said, some positions set, some positions not. What games will be deciding where these conferences finish off? Let's start with the fixtures for the Glacies Conference. And once again, Kingsman, a couple of games tonight, but actually, it looks like Wednesday is going to be a busy night for Glacies. Talk me through these fixtures.
Yeah, Wednesday is a busy night. However, tonight we have Keanu Eclipse. Eclipse coming off a bad week, and Keanu looking like they're flying. Massive game for them. If Keanu win that, they can grab their hands on a potential top 3 spot and pull it a bit closer to them. However, Eclipse's other game is Inertia, so they don't have a single easy game in their run-in. However, one big matchup I've picked out this week, probably the standout, is for Neptunium. They play Yukubo, and they also play Thralls. So, I mean, it's in Neptunium's hands, really. If Neptunium can beat Yukubo, they put themselves level with one series to go. Lose to Yukubo, it gives them first place, and if they lose to Thralls, they might see themselves out of the top 3 entirely.
Yeah, for sure. Fascinating state of affairs in Glacies. Have we got a similar kind of week in Ignis, Hodge?
Over on the Ignis side, the big day for some of these teams is going to be Thursday. A lot of those matches happening over that side of the week and the second half, and it's going to be once again a big showdown at the end. But one of those sort of spots that I'm looking at, and some crucial matches that sort of indicate those spots. Obviously, the 6th place cutoff, 4 play-ins. Veldora, Alpha Surge, they've got a match against Mischief, who obviously is currently undefeated. So if they lose that and then Dexterity start picking up some wins in their matches, then that could be a bit of an interesting situation down for that sort of cutoff as well. So Ignis, it's about a bit of a fight for 6th place here between a couple of our teams, and I'd say that is one of the more crucial matches of the week.
Yeah, certainly seems to be, and that is it for Challenger. Can't wait to see how the tables shake out there. 2 down, 3 to go then, and we start off with our rival tier here in RSC and the Glacies Conference. Well, some very interesting results last week, Kingsman.
Yeah, lots of red in the mid-table. Not good for those sides. Onka and Atmos still not able to find themselves a series win. Atmos getting beaten in 2 game 5s, which must be so demoralizing for them. They were 1 game away from having 2 series win this week. And Onka, they weren't able to, getting swept by Carl's. That Carl's side has been on a tear since their roster change, and getting 3-1 by Momentum. I mean, it's a tough week for Onka. However, without wins in 4, they are going to be struggling. However, down near the bottom of the table, those teams decided it was time to pick it up. Toads, following on from their double win week in week 7, go double win again, beating Mokoteki 3-2 and getting a 3-1 win of Chianina in that other series. And Nardus going double win, ending their massive loss streak, getting a 3-1 win onto mid-table Nightfall, and a 3-1 win, probably the biggest result of the week, a 3-1 win onto top of the table Momentum. If there was any better way to keep your play-ins hopes alive, it has to be by beating top of the league.
Yeah, it's always a statement when you can do that. A couple of statements made in Ignis as well, Hodge. No 4-game series, but plenty of sweeps and 5-game series. What happened over there?
It was chaos. I mean, when you look towards the top of the table, one big thing to note is that Mirage, their sort of chance of a perfect season came to an end. And you might think, oh, who's it come to an end by? Was it the 2nd place team, the 3rd place team? No, it was Queens down in 9th place. Currently in the league. They've been on a tear and winning their last 3 matches, 2 of them in last week. And it was a game 5 banger between those 2 teams, but Queens got it over the line, ending Mirage's chances at a perfect season. But also, when we look down towards those sort of cut-off points between some of our different sort of cut-off points for both play-ins and playoffs, Streak winning, having a double win week in their week, and that's just sort of solidifying their chances at getting those top 3 places locked in. Also, some of our teams around that play-ins cut-off, such as Flame and 20R, they're having a bit of an interesting last week with 1 win and 1 loss each. So a bit of a fight for 6th place as well on that side of things, but it's a bit all over the place, and the games next week are certainly going to be chaos.
Yeah, we'll get onto those in just a minute. First, we've got to discuss exactly how those results last week shaped the conferences, and we start, as we always do, in Glacies. One sitting pretty at the top of the table, guaranteed playoffs. The rest of the table, well, Kingsman, it's a bit of a mess.
Yeah, it is now. And yeah, one team, as you mentioned, guaranteed top 3 is Momentum. Even though they picked up that shaky loss midweek, they sit pretty at the top. Carl's, since that roster change that I mentioned, they brought Ryan in, and they've been on a absolute tear. and they are looking for that top spot. It's those two fighting out for that first place spot, and well, big week ahead. That is all I'll say. Anyway, 9 and 7 is Uranium and Atmos. Atmos have just been falling like a stone, and they might even find themselves out of the top 6. 9 and 2 is a very pretty run. 9 and 7 is a bit average. So they're going to be looking to bounce back and confirm themselves in that top 6. Behind them are Nightfall and Onka. Onka, another side that just decided they haven't been able to pick up wins. They were 8 and 4 ending week 6. So they're going to be looking to get a win to confirm that. But Nightfall picking up an odd win here and there that keeps them up into 5th place. Then Toads, 4 wins out of 4 in the last 2 weeks. Don't be surprised if they end up in the top 6. And Nardus making a late dash towards those places. Those two are the only teams left. Chianina and Mokoteki, both out of contention, 5 and 11. But they still have a huge chance to impact the run-in of some of the big teams.
Certainly, and some of those upset games, they can be the big deciders coming through into late weeks as well. Meanwhile, Hodge, top and bottom of the table in Ignis look relatively set, but yeah, in the middle, kind of 2nd to 8th, it's still all to play for.
It is. It's all to play for, and some of the notable matches. I guess that's sort of the notable results that happened last week. I'm looking down towards sort of 7th, 8th place. Vanguard, they managed to pick up a win last week, which doesn't quite qualify them for a play-in spot yet, but it does keep alive the possibility of doing so in week 9. The sad news for them is they're going to have to go through Mirage to do so, who's currently 15 and 1. So there's certainly a cloud to the silver lining, but the possibility is still there. Also, when we look at some of our teams around that cut-off, Flame 20 Robin, just sort of staying at that sort of level. And then when we look up the table a little bit more, we're seeing a couple of lost weeks from some of our teams around that play-ins area focus, losing both of their matches. Both Kaisel and Flame going 1-1. So it's a little bit all over the place, and a lot can change in week 9.
A lot can change in week 9. Let's see exactly how it is going to change as we go over to the fixtures. And we start with Glacies as always. Only one game tonight, but the rest of the week looks packed.
It does, and I mentioned Uranium need to secure their top 3 status, and they'd have to knock Nardus out of play-ins contention if they want to do that. Well, good luck. It's a big game. Nardus need a win. Uranium want to win to secure top 3. Big games at opposite ends of the table. However, there has to be one game you look at this week that is the big one. And that is Carl's versus Momentum for that first place spot. Momentum slipped a game last week, but I'm sure that won't bother them. Carl's, however, on an absolute tear with their new roster. The winner of that will, believe, take first place tied. Carl's other game being Mokoteki, and Momentum's being Chianina. So both teams that are out of contention have a big chance to secure one of the respective sides first place. But if Momentum beat Carl's, the top 2 places are decided. That's the big one, and that's the one to look out for this week.
Always fun when you get these big clashes towards the end of the season, and we've got exactly the same in the Ignis conference. 1st and 2nd playing each other as well, Hodge. Super excited to see this week 9 play out.
Yeah, 1st and 2nd going to be clashing. Mirage and Dexterity. That's going to be a good match to watch. And so is a couple of our matches that we've got across week 9, which, could be very meaningful clashes. Once again, I'm looking towards that play-ins cut-off. We've got Flame and 20 Robin both playing up against Focus, who currently find themselves on a 3-loss streak. So they're going to have to find some sort of momentum to try and bounce back. And it's a big game for both Flame and 20 Robin, as they're currently both sat on that cut-off with the same record. So only one of them likely going to make it, but you never know if they both upset Focus, and then things could very much change up and Focus could find themselves out of playoffs contention. So big games here in the Ignis conference, and all very meaningful going into the final week.
Every game makes a difference at this stage of the season. Super exciting week in the lineup for Rival. Well, we now start to get on to the big boys, and we kick things off with the elite tier here in RSC. And, well, week 8 was very interesting in Glacies. From what I can see, only one Game 5, Kingsman. Everything else, well, it was pretty one-sided.
Yes, it was. And Swift, of all teams, looking for a series win. They're not going to get it. However, 13-1 Miasma going into this week. They find double losses in a huge shock of events. They lose a series, lose 3-0 to ninth place Tigris, and they get beaten 3-1 by second place Shinjiru. A massive series win for Shinjiru here. And two other teams that went double win were Darkness and Saturnia. Darkness in that mid-table picking up a 3-0 and a 3-1. Two very nice results. And Saturnia getting two sweeps over two high-flying teams in Salamanders and Nguni. So their season's picking up. But is it little, too late? Well, we'll find out in the standings.
Yeah, very good. Build the tension, Kingsman. He's learning over the last couple of weeks. Love that for you. Hodge, over in the Ignis Conference, a little bit of a different look. Couple of Game 5s, couple of close games. What are we saying over here?
Yeah, a couple of Game 5s, couple of close games, and I think some of the big sort of matches that we see are towards that fourth place team, Kings. They had a double loss week last week, and some unfortunate losses for them. One of them being to that fifth place team, Dexterity, going on a double win week, and they're sort of shooting up the leaderboard a little bit, putting themselves in a better contention, a better place to guarantee themselves in those play-ins. But there's still some work to do for them in week 9. There's still some work to do for everyone else. But across the Ignis Conference, mostly, some really good results. Also looking down towards 20R, towards Alpha Surge, picking up a couple of good wins there across each of them. And, they're going to have to do some preying on others' downfalls this week. But, it's certainly a chance.
It certainly is the age of hate watching, isn't it, these days? As you're trying to get into those finals weeks, the playoffs, play-ins, and we're preying on other teams to slip up. Let's see exactly just how much each team needs to slip up as we go to the Glacies Conference. And this one looks very, very interesting, Kingsman. Pretty much set for play-ins. The playoffs, there's a couple of teams in contention. Other way around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Playoffs basically secured. However, which order it'll be in is unknown. Porphyra, they cannot get first. However, Miasma will be looking to shake some feathers with Shinjiru. Shinjiru need to go double win, and looking at their form, that won't be a problem. Those 14-2, 13-3. 13-3 normally gets you first place, not here. Porphyra 11-5 basically secured third. They'll have to pull out a miracle to catch Miasma, and Nguni a bit too far behind. Then looking down the rest of the table, Nguni 9-7, Darkness 8-8, and then Giles and Salamanders 7-9, with Saturnia, who picked up 2 wins this week, on their tails. Saturnia not too late in the slightest. They're just finding form at exactly the right time. A big week for them. We'll see them go into the top 6. But the fixtures are yet to come. Tigris, they've picked up 3 wins in the last 4. It doesn't matter. They're out of playoffs contention. And Swift, formerly renamed as Slow, 1-15. I believe now they have the confirmed worst record in the whole of RSC this season. Sit at the bottom with 1-15 after Ankoli Watusi picked up a series win.
Ouch. I do hope that Hazard's not watching this because he will be absolutely devastated with what's happening with Swift. But yeah, the rest of the table looking very interesting, as you say. Let's see the Ignis Conference and see how they're getting on over there. It looks like bottom 2 teams once again are out of it, but above them, well, Hodge, it's a bit tight at the top, isn't it?
It is, and actually on the Ignis side of things, I believe most of the teams for those top 6 are pretty much a lock. It's still a matter of what order they're going to be. The only team actually qualified for that top 3 for those playoffs is All-Star. So there's a bit of a battle around that second sort of through 4th and 5th to see who is going to, make sure they guarantee themselves in those top 3. But in terms of that top 6 cutoff, it is only Blaze who is in the firing line. Is only Blaze who can get knocked out of those top 6. And the 2 teams chasing is going to be 20R and Alpha Surge. And the thing is for Blaze, the only thing they have to do to guarantee themselves in those playoffs is win a match. That is it. If they win one of their matches next week, they will guarantee themselves playoffs, I believe. And 20R and Shenron, if they lose a match, then they are out. So a little bit of preying on each other's downfalls. Like you said, it seems to be the favorite thing to do now. A little bit of preying on each other's downfalls and hopefully getting some good sort of matchups in that final week. But yeah, gonna be an entertaining week here in the Ignis Conference.
It certainly is. Let's see just how entertaining things will be, because we have got the fixtures coming up. And of course, it is the Glacies Conference that will kick us off. Anything interesting to watch this week, Kingsman?
Well, I mentioned Porphyra needing a miracle week to get that second place. Well, they play Miasma, so they have a big chance here to push on. A win there would leave them with more hope. However, Miasma's other game will not see them challenge very much. I believe they won't struggle against Nguni, but you never know. They aren't exactly pushovers, but they should have enough quality to get past the team in fourth place. However, the big game is the other game for Nguni, where they play Darkness, and Darkness really want to get that fourth place spot and deny Nguni any last burning desire of that third place spot. But as we've mentioned, Nguni will have to be in a lot of praying that Giles can get past Porphyra as well as Miasma, putting them to bed.
Yeah, lots of prayers being sent, lots of voodoo dolls being pierced, I would think, this week, as people try their best to get into those play-ins. Hodge, over on the Ignis side, I can't help but notice that, well, RL Ireland, they've got a really, really tough final week.
They do. They've got that first place currently secured, but how much could that change? It's a bit of a clash of the top three here in your week 9 for the Ignis Conference, with All-Star playing against both Centurions and Deception being the second and third place teams currently in the conference. So maybe one of those teams could shake things up and maybe change the order of that top three. But also, like I mentioned, sort of down towards that 6th, 7th, 8th area, Blaze have got a little bit of an interesting week. They've got some difficult matches, playing one against the team above them, who's currently on a three win streak in Dexterity, and then their other match going to be against Centurions, who currently sit second. So they've got a bit of a difficult week. And on the other side of things, 20R and Shenron, the two teams who are currently chasing that 6th place spot, well, they're going to play against each other. So one of them's guaranteed a win. So that's going to bring things a little bit more nail-bitey there for Blaze. And the other match for both of those teams is going to be for Shenron, it is going to be against Summit, which is the 9th place team. And for 20 Raven, it is going to be against that Dexterity team. So there is a very good chance of a leaderboard shift down towards that 6th place area, but some very interesting matches to watch for this final week, and there's still very much it all to play for here.
Yeah, you believe that All-Star has a say with that. Playing against Centurions and Deception, those are two very important matches. If anything, for momentum going into the postseason, that's exactly the kind of matches that you want to be winning. Right, one final tier, and you know where we are headed next. It's the big boys. It is the top tier. It is Master tier. And as always, Kingsman Gas can talk us through the Glacies results.
Yes, he can. And well, the first team I'm going to mention is one team that had probably the most bipolar week possible. And it's Heck. They did the absolute surprise, and they beat top of the table Shokan in what must have shocked everyone in a massive Game 5, as Shokan went 0-2 this weekend, losing to Berserkers as well. But then Heck couldn't get their mojo going, and against Mavro, bottom of the table, they couldn't get a series win. So they beat top, lose to bottom. As Kairu said to me, it pretty much sums up his season. However, one team at the top that are looking for that first place spot are Frogs. They beat fellow high flyers Velocity in a Game 5, and they beat near bottom of the table Nefeli 3-1. Velocity, another team at the top that went 0-2 this week, getting swept by Abyss, a mid-table team. So it is really shaping up these mid-table teams getting results and sort of stunting the top teams running.
Yeah, for sure. Fascinating week in Glacies. Absolutely. We'll see how that affects the standings in just a moment. Meanwhile, we do have the Ignis results to check through. Hodge, what can you tell us about week 8 from Ignis?
Well, things don't get any better for this RL Island Superstar roster as they lose out in a 3-0 to Inferno Blaze and also lose out in a game 5 against Alpha Surge. So currently a bit of a loss streak for them, and they're going to be looking to turn things around in those final few games that they have. But notably, I guess towards the 6th and 7th, towards those cut-off points, we have double win weeks coming from both coming from Brave and Aspire. So that's some big wins for them as they're looking to push on up and guarantee themselves some of those play-in spots. Double loss weeks for 20R and for that Flawless team as well. So not looking so good for them. But towards the top of the table, you've got some high flyers still, continuing their momentum. Sovereigns having a double win week alongside Aces, with Dexterity having a 1-1. So a little bit all over the place, and excited to see how things are going to get cooking as we roll towards our final week.
And cooking they indeed will. Let's take a look at the current standings then, with 2 games to play for each individual team. The top of the table in Glacies looks very, very packed together, Kingsman. The bottom of the table, well, maybe not so much.
Yeah, there's so much red at the top of the table, it's hard to make out. Shokan, though, top of the table, tied with Frogs, who Frogs are the only team that have gone double win 2 weeks consecutively as they push on at the top of the table. Shokan, 2 wins out of 5, and same with Velocity as they're 10 and 6, with Berserkers knocking at the door. Leo will also be fancying their chances, 9 and 7, 1 series behind 3rd place, and at Miracle's work, they are 2 behind top. As much as I don't think that will happen, it's technically possible. Abyss holding on to that 6th place, 8 and 8. Big week for them as they swept Velocity at the top of the league. And then just behind them is Heck, who, as I mentioned already, most bipolar week. A win against Mavro would have left a real big scrap for those 6th place. And the Felly still hanging in there, 1-1 week for them. And then the 2 teams that are out of it are Iovi and Mavro. But Mavro taking that huge series win off of Heck.
Yeah, fascinating for the Glacies conference. It all comes down to the final week, and trust me, when you see the fixtures, you're going to understand why we say that. However, over on the Ignis side, things are looking a little bit more clear-cut, although there is still a chance that one of these teams gets into playoffs before going to play-ins. That is really the only battle that's... Actually, I apologize. There is quite a battle for playoffs a little bit further down the table as well. Hodge, take us through it.
Yeah, 2 teams guaranteed in those playoffs. Aces and Virtus there in the 2 top teams of the Ignis Conference. And then 2 teams who cannot make it to play-ins, being Flawless and Alpha Surge. But everyone else is in the firing line. Everyone else has a chance to not make it, apart from Sovereigns, who are in those play-ins guaranteed, but still going to be looking to push further in this final week. The big sort of battle for me in this final week is going to be between 4th place and 7th place. All of those 4 teams have a chance of being tied on win records and it having to go to tiebreakers for that one. But, it's unlikely, but it could happen. What has to happen for the tiebreakers is Illusion, Inferno, and Zenith. Either of those teams could win both of their matches, and then things will certainly get interesting. And that would be the scenario where RL Island Superstar could just fall out of the bracket and not make play-ins. If the other teams below them win all their matches, then they could well find themselves in 7th. So anything could happen here, and it's certainly gonna be chaos.
Anything could happen, but let's see exactly how those things are going to happen as we take a look at the fixtures coming through into week 9, the final week. 2 games remaining for each individual team. Let's start in Glacies. And let me tell you something. Panthera Leo, Kingsman. Well, they're going to be wondering how they got this kind of bad luck going into the final week. They've got some difficult games coming up.
I wouldn't call it bad luck, more as, well, Leo, fate is in your own hands.
True,
they play 4th
true.
and 3rd. The 2 teams ahead of them by 1 series. Their fate is not depending on any other team. They win both of those games. They almost guarantee themselves to leapfrog both of those teams. So, go on, Leo, show us what you've got. However, teams with another big set of games is for Abyss. They play Heck, who are the team directly below them, and Nepheli, who are the team just hanging on here. Nepheli need to beat Abyss to keep their season going. And well, that's the big one, because if Abyss win that, Heck need to go on a tear and beat the most informed team in Frogs. So Abyss really have fate again in their own hands, and there's not much depending on other teams. Looking at Frogs, their other game is Iovi, and for Shokan, they have to go to bottom of the league Mavro and Nepheli. So Nepheli will have everything to play for, whereas their other game Mavro should be a nice sweep for them.
Should does never mean will, Kingsman. Anything can happen in the RSC. We'll see exactly how that works out later this week. As for Ignis Hodge, again, only one game tonight, but once again, it seems to be a very, very popular day. This time it's Thursday. So many games happening on Thursday, and we might get a better idea of where each of these teams stand after that day.
Yeah, we hopefully will. Across the week, there's some very, very key matches. I'm looking towards a couple of teams, but one that's looking to guarantee themselves in playoffs is that Sovereigns roster. They're going to be matching up against Dexterity and against this Aspire roster as well. So two very crucial games. Some would say one more easier than the other, but they've essentially got their fate in their own hands for playoffs. Lock in, get those games won, and they will certainly both be entertaining ones. Towards that sort of 4th through 7th bracket that we've sort of got going on, where anyone can really either fall out or make it. It's some interesting games for all of those teams. They have the chance to not make playoffs. They have the chance to not make play-ins, and they certainly have the chance to make it as well. It's all fate in everyone's own hands here for this last week, and some of those is going to come down to preying on others' downfalls. But mostly, what you've got to try and do is you've got to try and take your matchups and win them in as few games as possible. So if it does come down to tiebreakers, you have that win percentage advantage, hopefully. But yeah, some of the key matches for some of those teams I'm going to be looking at are going to be Illusion. They've got a very sort of, I guess some would say, free win against the 10th place team, but obviously it's not that easy. You've still got to come into it just like every other game. They've got Alpha Surge, and they've also got 20R, so two nice games for them. Inferno, they're going to be going up against Alpha Surge, so a nice game for them, but also the parallel of that is they also have to play the number 1 team in Aces, so a little bit back and forth for them. And then that Arwell Island team, unfortunately for them, they're going to have to play the 2nd seed in Virtus, but also going to have to play against 20R, so that's potentially a little bit of a better game for them as well. Zenith also against Flawless, who are a team who you would back them to beat here based on their season record so far, and then also against Sovereigns, so that could be a little bit of an interesting match, as both teams I've got some sort of thing to back them behind them. I mean, this Aspire team, they've won 3 games in a row, looking to come in with some momentum here. And obviously Sovereigns have that sort of 3rd place record, and they've currently performed across the season pretty well so far. So looking to continue that into the final week. So final set of games here for Master is certainly going to be Chaos.
It is exactly going to be that for not just Master, but all tiers. It always is the final week of RSC. Very, very interesting indeed. That is all of the tiers. But of course, we need to see how people are standing with their own franchises. 20 franchises in RSC. Let's see who the best performing ones are. And we'll leave it to Kingsman Gas to take us through the bottom half of the table here with the franchise standing.
Oh, you remember this week? It gets better and better. Oh, that is brilliant. However,
Let's go.
It's not getting better for Brave or Panthera. 31 and 32 wins respectively. Same with Unitox, and no movement at all. Amphibian, even though Frogs are absolutely carrying them, they are sit 36 and 44 with Alpha Surge and Redirect. Oh my god, Alpha Surge, Redirect, RL Island, and 20R. Just a 1 win up the road with Fort Templar and Systema Solaris 2 behind. So there's a real close scrap here from about 17th to 11th. Depending on how their team's weeks go, any of them could go from any order. And I'm wondering, when we flip the switch and hand over to Hodge, whether this will be the exact same or 11th and 10th, the gap will be massive.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see just how big that gap is as we take a look at the top half of the franchise standings, Hodge, and lots of changes happening in this top half.
Yeah, lots of changes. I mean, when you look at some of the high flyers, obviously Illusory still going to be that number one. A lot of that coming from their rival and challengers. Almost perfect season for rival, and then challenger obviously currently a perfect season. But you know, massive rosters for them. When you look down towards that 10th place cutoff, you see sort of Flawless. They may have dropped a couple of places, but still hanging in there a little bit. So they're going to have to put up a good week to finish strong in that league play, and then also, when we look towards a team who's moved up quite a bit, we're going to be looking at Shadow Esports. Massive week coming from them in terms of both their prospect, their elite, and their master rosters, all having all win sort of weeks, double win weeks. So good for them. And when we look at DSQ as well, good movement for them, going up from 9th to 7th. Excuse me. So some pretty nice changes here for some teams, and then unfortunately for some who have dropped, Team Serene, Death Cloud, Royal 5, and then Flawless obviously dropping a couple more places than they would like to. So some good movement here in the top 10, and it's going to be all to play for here.
It is absolutely all to play for coming into the final week. Well, that is your wrap up to week 9. Thank you very much, boys, for taking us through a lot of that. Now, as always, we do have a little bit more to remind ourselves from week 8, and that, of course, is our clips and fails of the week. Always entertaining, always fun to have a watch. It's you combined with us to decide who wins every single week. Clip of the week will be a poll in chat, as will fails. So without further ado, let's present to you your nominations for this week's Clip of the Week. All right, you might be able to get your votes in right now, although I don't see a poll in the chat, so I don't know if I think it's normally Mal that starts those anyway. So just let us know in chat exactly who you think won Clip of the Week. I'm going to come to each of my panelists first, and then we'll go over who we think won. Hodge, I'm going to go with you first, as you are the first-time guest. Who do you think was the most impressive clip this week?
It's difficult because unlike some weeks we see here in the RSC, there's not really a sort of specific standout clip which makes you go, oh, you know, by far easy choice. You know, it was a psycho from across the map. It was a sort of corner double that was absolutely crazy. It was sort of like, I feel like all the clips here have a sort of good chance of winning, but for me, I'm gonna have to sort of lean towards this sort of clip here that I saw from Trevor. I think it was an incredible sort of play to just take it the entire way from that halfway sort of line, and there's perfect finishing as well off of that back wall, just dunking on everyone. That's sort of my favorite from that video, but I think you could look towards anyone in that clip and make a justifiable argument for them winning.
Absolutely, and I'm sure Kingsman will be able to do just that. You've always got an opinion on the Clip of the Week, Kingsman. What's your opinion this week?
Oh, I do love a good opinion. I do love a good upset of people on Clip of the Week, but they're all good clips, as Hodge mentioned. They are all very competitive and all in their own regards have a good chance of winning. My favourite, however, was Milne's, personally, because the skim touch he got on the redirect you don't get. It's very hard to get. It's a very difficult mechanic, and he got that basically top over the last defender, and some brilliant finishing. But they're all very good clips, and all in their own sense could compete. But as you mentioned, Trevor's clip very impressive. Some good control there as well.
Yeah, I do want to give some love to the Afar clip as well. I'm a fan of the coast-to-coast goal where you pick it up on your own back line and then you make your way throughout the entire field and get the finish at the other end. Always a favorite of mine, but I'm looking in the chat. I'm seeing a couple for Trevor. I'm seeing one for Afar. Oh, there is a prediction actually, but I missed it. I missed the results of that. So we're just going to go based on what we see in the chat. And I think it's going to end up going to Trevor, to be honest with you. Close fought race between Trevor and Afar, but Milne also a very, very good shout from you, Kingsman Gas. So let's watch that clip of the week one more time. And so you can see that your winner, of course, is the Trevor clip in this one. All fantastic clips, though. See you in a moment. There you have it. Congratulations to Trevor. And by the way, yes, I am keeping this bit alive. I've seen everything that's going on in chat. I simply don't care. You are
Yeah,
Trevor for us now. That is the way that it goes, and you can deal with it. But congratulations on the clip of the week. Great work. And congratulations to everyone who was nominated for clip of the week. I cannot say congratulations to the people nominated for our next award, though, of course. We do have fail of the week. I'm not going to congratulate people for fail of the week. Hodge, come on now, behave yourself. We do have quite a few nominations, I believe, for this one as well. So let's take a look at the fails of this week's RSC.
Steve, hinter dich.
Bin ab.
Bin nach links, bin nach.
Ja,
Post. Oh, schöner Block.
Gut.
Oh.
Der bleibt mit.
Ah,
What the fuck, Linus? Hey, ich hab nicht hingeschaut.
Let's
Ich hab
go.
den nicht reingemacht. Ich hab den nicht reingemacht. Aber der
Super.
Shot war crazy, aber ich hab ihn nicht reingemacht. Blizzy hat ihn reingemacht.
Okay, we got one nomination for fail of the week. Congratulations, Chat Future, I guess. Knocking it back into your own net with 3 people on the line. That's a rough one. So German comms go crazy, apparently in chat. Absolutely. So yeah, I guess commiserations for your fail of the week victory there. Hodge, any comments on the miscom that we saw on that one?
I think it's better if I don't say anything. Usually when
Fair.
I'm casting RSC and someone makes an awful mistake, my usual response, rather than to sit there and slate them for 30 seconds, is to just go silent and just stay silent. Yeah, it's usually the best response.
Yeah, I absolutely think so. Kingsman, the man of opinions on clip of the week. Well, yeah, fail of the week. Not quite going very well this week, but still an entertaining watch nonetheless.
Yeah, and I think the fail of the week is actually Blizzy, technically, because it's Shattered's point of view from it. It's Blizzy who hits it into his own net. So good to see that my GM can score in unique ways. Because he has struggled to score in recent weeks and struggles on the pitch in general. But he is doing good. He's getting other people to score for him instead, and clearly winning series that way. So it's good to see, but not so good if you're on Blizzy's end. A bit too much panic on the back line.
Not so good at all. Well, from the not so good to the absolutely great, we do now have to look at our weekly awards. We will be taking a look at who won their individual awards in each tier. And as always, we start off in the Prospect tier. Kingsman, can you take us through the awards this week for Prospect?
Yes, I can. M8 is your MVP. 557 points a game, beating out second place. Who gets the finisher in Louis? 1.67. Then your FA of Matt Blue is your striker with 54% shooting percentage. Sammy is your playmaker with 1.57 assists per game from the Berserkers roster. And 11, Elvin, I say 11 from 20R is your savior with 2.25 saves per game.
Yeah, there you go. A couple of nice options there for you as well. Mersu getting a couple of bronzes on the line. And of course, Matt Blue doing some great work. Bronze, gold, and silver MVP, striker, and savior, respectively. Some good plays coming through from Prospect. Let's take a look then at Challenger. And Hodge, can you take us through these?
Yeah, a very good week here in terms of the awards for one specific player. Rubik's winning both the MVP and Savior awards here. When we look towards Playmaker, that's going to go to Butt Snorkeler 54, Striker to Killer Goose, and Finisher to Quarentra. I think I've got that right.
Yeah.
But yeah, when we look towards some of those bronze and silvers, I'm looking at just to see if we've got any recurring sort of offenders here, but it looks like everyone's sort of unique. We don't have anyone winning multiple, so we've got some across the board there, but I'm not going to sit and read every single one of them out.
No, and it's always nice when the awards are shared about. Of course, we do have Rubik's, by the way, winning MVP and Savior, 2 gold medals for him, but not appearing on any of the other lists. So congratulations to the guys that we see in front of us. Of course, a free agent, Killer Goose, coming through with a striker percentage. Of course, cannot be picked up now as roster lock has closed, but still getting the work done in this final week. So congratulations to our challenger winners. Let's go then into our middle tier. It's our rival tier. And this one is looking like it's pretty much the battle of 20R and Berserkers, Kingsman.
It is Trevor. I'm keeping the trend going. I don't care what you say it is. He's your MVP, 560 points per game. Sweaty Kami just beat Sarge to the finisher with 1.44 goals per game. Blizzy, he might have been shooting in his own net, but when he was shooting on the opponent's net, he was doing quite well as well. 80% shooting percentage. Then Tapai from the Team Berserkers roster is your playmaker. That's clearly where all the goals are coming from. And Ryan keeping that Berserkers back line intact with 2.71 saves per game.
Yeah, again, a couple of people to pick out. Ryan, a bronze and a gold, of course, mentioned there by Kingsman. You got Hikari. That's a couple of bronzes there for striker and playmaker. But that pretty much does it for your multiple winners. So, Mr. Spud as well, 2 silvers to his name, MVP and Savior, respectively. With that said, that is Rival. Let's head up then to Elite and Hodge. Well, that makes for nice viewing, doesn't it? For Systema Solaris.
It's I'm quite happy that everything is. It looks really nice. If one of those was a different franchise, it would really annoy me. But Dash certainly had a good week apparently for Systema Solaris, MVP, finisher, and saver. He was all over the pitch. He was doing it all, but also his teammates Dragon and the Deadly Wet Wipe getting themselves a gold medal as well. Systema Solaris, certainly an intergalactic performance from them for that week. But also when you look towards some of those bronzes and silvers, it's not done for the Systema Solaris roster. Dragon getting himself a bronze, and for the rest of some of the people here, Galaxy a silver and a bronze. And I believe that is it for the multiple winners.
Yeah, looks that way from what I can see. But wow, what a week for Systema Solaris. They'll be so happy with their results this week as they march on into that final week, of course. Still a lot to play for. Still a chance to get into the play-ins for them if they keep playing the way they are. That is for sure. Finally, we get on to the Master Tier Awards. A little bit more evened out. And hey, Kingsman even gets to talk about himself, which is something that he absolutely loves to do. So go ahead, my friend.
Oh, yeah. However, firstly, we've got to talk about Khan RL. 647 points per game. He also picks up the Savior with 3 saves per game. Then we've got a tied finisher, actually. Sido takes the gold, followed by Verified NC. NC also on Brave. So Brave had a brilliant week in the shooting department, and then I've got me, myself, and I for the striker. Considering my shooting is normally quite awful, if you look at last week's or not last season's fail of the season, you will know my shooting is probably one of the worst things in this league. I've somehow managed to pick up striker this week with 53% shooting accuracy. I'm not complaining, but it's weird to see. 2M, we found where all the goals for Brave are coming from with 1.43 assists per game. And then Khan, already mentioned, his saviour with 3 saves per game.
Yeah, great work from Khan, working well on that shadow roster. And hey, yeah, Brave definitely getting a few awards in here as well. Sido finisher, 2M playmaker, and an NC as well with that finisher bronze. So good end to the season for Brave by the looks of things. Another team fighting for play-ins, but they found the right time to get warm. We'll see if they're able to stay that way. But I believe I might have forgotten something, but I think that is the end of our weekly awards. We do have the Team of the Week, though, of course, as our final award. And some fantastic names in here. I'm going to ask each of our panelists just to pick out one name from this list and give a little bit of discussion about them. So, Kingsman, you've just talked about Master, and I imagine you'll be able to pick someone out here. Who do you think gets a special mention from yourself today?
As much as I'd love to stick with my own franchise and do Andre, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go with Ryan for Carl's, who he was brought in as part of a roster change for them, I believe, in week 6 or week 7. They've gone unbeaten since, and he picked up, obviously, the Savior Award this week. He's a brilliant player, and it's good that he's showing that in the rival tier. Struggled a bit at the start of the season with another team, but he's found the right team now, and is clearly clicking his way forward. So it's really good to see him getting the credit that he probably deserves for being probably one of the better players in Rival.
Yeah, playing very, very well on that Berserkers roster. Hodge, over to you. Pick someone out. Who do you want to shine a spotlight on this week?
Oh, well, I didn't see anything specifically from them last week, so I've been sort of MIA the last week. But the week before, back in week 7, no, week 6 actually. Back in time a bit here. Week 6, I casted Zenith versus Illusion on stream, and this was a series that Zenith really needed to win in the Master Division to keep themselves with a chance of pushing forward in the season and not getting knocked out in the moment. They managed to reverse sweep Illusion, and one of the players who was leading the charge was Rukia. Some incredible plays. I remember a game 5 insane shot from Rukia that absolutely, you just sort of put the nail in the coffin, I guess, for that series. But a crucial player for their team, and a crucial player in general here in that division. So I guess that's who I'm going to pick out.
Yeah, I mean, I also want to pick out Dash as well from Saturnia in Elite. I mean, that Sistema Solaris team, you saw that they had pretty much every weekly award that we were able to give out, but Dash is the one that got above the rest. And you have to, I mean, yeah, absolutely. You just have to pick them out as a fantastic player, giving their team a double game win week going into week number 9. So if they can continue that work, they will look fantastic. But congratulations to for this week's Team of the Week. You all thoroughly deserved it. And now, time for a segment that we've not seen for a while on the RSCast. It's been a minute. We've got some mini game awards for you all. Let's take a look at exactly how we got there. So the mini game awards all to do with fantasy and predictions. And there you go at the moment. Weekly top 3. You've got Andre taking the victory there. The overall leaderboard still is Stingray from Team Dexterity. Stingray, he loves these kind of games. He loves these kind of competitions. Doing very well for that one. Meanwhile, on the predictions, it's Yannick and Rox who got the predictions, weekly top 3, and of course, the overall leaderboard. But if you see yourself there, congratulations on your mini games victories. I'd love to go through all of the tier leaderboards, but you can see them all there. And Stingray's won 2 of them, so I don't particularly want to dwell on them too much, if I'm being honest, as we take a look at these. But yeah, mini games, always fun part of RSC. Make sure you get involved at the Discord. Make sure you get involved in all of the mini games that we have to offer. Predictions and fantasy, both very, very fun. Right. Well, that is pretty much going to do it for today. We've got some final thoughts. Week 9. Kingsman, I'm going to come to you first. Final thoughts for the final week of RSC.
Yeah, one more week of league play, and then we're off to the playoffs. The moment where teams make their shine. But first, you've got to make it to that top 6. And for those teams outside, don't lose hope yet. Anything's possible. I've seen miracles bigger than you'd expect. I've seen a team in 10th finish 5th. So don't count yourselves out. If you're still mathematically possible, as long as you give it your all this week, you will be there. But a brilliant run-in of weeks for some of these teams. A lot of first versus second matchups. I hope we get to see some of them on stream.
Yeah, me too. Hodge, first week in the books for you. RSCast done and dusted. How did you find it? How are you looking forward to week 9?
More difficult than I expected, to be honest. You've sort of got to think on your feet a bit, but it isn't that ever with casting, let's be honest. When it comes, though, to week 9, I think, sort of to mirror what Kingsman said, if you're sort of on that border, you've just got to play what's in front of you. You've just got to try your best. I mean, there has been massive upsets, massive sort of comebacks we've seen in the RSC before. I mean, even look at last season when we sort of looked at, I believe it was Azteca Rival, in last season, started 0-6 in their league play and then came back to not just qualify for play-ins playoffs, but then also go on to win the entire division. So it is very much possible to sort of have a comeback story. It is very much possible to change your fortunes in these not just final weeks, but also in playoffs as well. You've just got to play what's in front of you, and at the end of the day, try your best. But yeah, I can't wait for playoffs. Week 9 is going to be crazy. I'm especially looking at Prospect is Ignis as sort of the conference where anything could happen. But yeah, it's gonna be a fun one.
It certainly is going to be a fun one. And also remember, if you don't have anything to play for in your league, you have things to play for in the franchise standings. That is very, very important to remember. Your franchise needs you. Make sure you play as hard as you can and get those final wins over the line in the final week. And I realize I said this during an advert, so barely anyone has heard me. But make sure, for those of you that have heard me, that you do play as well as you possibly can. Right, that is going to do it for us. As always, thank you so much to our guests, Kingsman Gas and Hodge. Thank you also to our sponsors. That's Badass Studios, Royal 5, and of course, if you buy anything from the Epic Store, make sure you use code RSC-EU. It really, really helps our league. It very much supports us. So thank you so much for those of you who continue to do that and support the RSC. But for now, for ourselves on the RScast, Week 9 is just around the corner. Good luck to all teams fighting for play-ins and playoff spots. We hope you all play incredibly well. And of course, there will be different streams throughout the week this week back here on the RSC-EU Twitch channel. Make sure you're following to keep up to date with all of the streams that we have here for you. But for now, for myself, for Hodge, and for Kingsman Gas, it's been an absolute pleasure taking you through last week and getting you ready for Week 9 in RSC Legacy. We'll see you very, very soon back here on RScast.